Yoda is a broke loser whose only dream is to get into the same college as his childhood friend so he could crack. However, everything changes when he meets an omniscient goddess who reveals the world is about to end in 30 days, unaware that her powers hold a devastating secret. The story begins with Yoda meeting a young girl dressed as a nun who claims to be the god Odin. She saw him playing basketball with his bummy friend and asked to take a shot. Yoda brings her over and he explains what they discussed, but Ashura calls her an anime nun, which pisses her off. He passes her the ball, but she faceplants it instead. Ashura expected her to sink it on the first shot with her divine powers. Odin had perfect form, but suddenly turns and asks if a blessing would be granted if she made it. Ashura gets pissed and snatches the ball back. Yoda explains they play basketball to relieve stress before their upcoming college entrance exams. However, Odin reveals there's no point because the world will end in 30 days. Ashura doesn't believe her at all, reminds Yoda about his big date, then heads off. After he leaves, Yoda asks for her last name, and it turns out to be Satu. Yoda thinks that's a problem. He has no idea how to get her home, and he has a date at the library with his childhood baddie. When Yoda reveals her name is Izanami, Satu is outraged that she was named after a god and announces she wants to meet her. Realizing he'll be late, Yoda asks her to just behave. They pass a store, and Satu goes in to purchase an umbrella. Yoda thinks it's odd since it's steaming hot outside. On the way, it suddenly starts pouring, and Yoda runs for the bus but is tragically too slow. Sato suggests walking since it'll be faster. When they catch up on foot, Yoda is surprised, but Satu claims her prophecies always come true. At the library, Izanami is getting rizzed up by pathetic losers, but she rejects them all.
Emotional damage!
Moments later, Yoda arrives and greets her in front of the virgins. He introduces Satu, but she claims to be God. Yoda thinks she's amazing for keeping her composure in front of the cult girl. Satu realizes he wants to crack and asks if he loves her.
It's true. I can hardly imagine you as more than a friend, and may the gods strike me down if I lie.
Sato decides he's cooked, leading to an unhealthy obsession with studying until the old hag comes and kicks them out. Afterwards, Satu tells him his efforts are wasted since the end is near. However, Yoda is still skeptical of her powers, so she demonstrates by conjuring a dead famous person and asks for a name. Yoda chooses Natsume Soseki. Upon appearing, she declares she was a cat and didn't know where she was born, but Yoda thinks she's just reciting one of his books. Suddenly, her stomach starts begging, so he takes her to get some food fuels. While eating ramen, Satu declares it a taste worthy of the divine. When the old man starts shouting at the TV, Sato asks what the peasant is doing, and Yoda explains he's gambling on horse racing. Sato hears him cheering for number 3, but reveals 3 will fall short and 8 will pass it. He thinks that's absurd. However, she points at the screen, and number 8 immediately takes the lead. That shocks both of them, but Yoda still thinks it's just a coincidence. One race later, she predicts every ranking correctly, leaving the old man speechless. If he bet on that, he would have been richer than Elon Musk. The moment the man declares they'll be billionaires, Yoda slams down the money, grabs the treasure, and runs off with it himself. Afterwards, Satu asks why he cut short her glory, but Yoda wonders if he's on some reality show. However, he's a regular at the ramen shop and doesn't think the old geezer would play him like that. Satu immediately points out his suspicion toward the ramen shop, then declares she possesses the foresight of the gods. Yoda doesn't want to believe it, but the girl before him really does have a supernatural power. She finds him entertaining, declares she'll spend the end of the world with him, then offers him her powers. Hearing that, Yoda immediately wishes to get into the same university as Izanami. Satu starts crying, saying the world will end before that, then realizes she's in the company of a fool. She understands and offers to use her powers to help him riz her into submission. She suddenly reveals Izanami is into baseball, giving Yoda a brain tumor since he's been in the basketball club since the start of high school. They've been friends since they were kids, yet he never knew. Absolutely pathetic. After crying, Yoda realizes he can't join the baseball club since he's already a senior. However, Sato suggests challenging the club and hitting a home run, then offers to approach them for him. Days later, Sato sits beside Izanami while watching Yoda step up to the plate. He wonders how she even arranged this. On the first pitch, the fastball comes in too high, exactly as she predicted. She predicts the next 2 pitches as well and tells him not to swing at either. She also tells him not to swing at the 4th pitch. The 5th pitch will be a weak fastball right down the middle. However, Yoda is already out by the 4th pitch. He wants to know what happened to the 5th pitch, but Satu thinks it was bad luck. Afterwards, she tells him it's his chance to confess his love since the world will end soon. When Yoda approaches, he hesitates like a wimp before finally asking her out. She instantly says no. and he drops to his knees. After she leaves, Sato declares she's heading to his home to live now. Yota doesn't think this is some manga since he just got tragically rejected by his childhood friend, and says she can't just announce she's moving in. She tells him to call his parents because they'll give him permission. Upon calling them, Yota describes Sato's appearance, and they immediately give him permission to bring her home. When they got home, Yota introduced her as Satu, but she claimed she was the god Odin. His mother, Tokiko, asked for her first name, and she answered Hina. Afterwards, Yota asked if they'd really let her stay, but Tokiko revealed she was actually a long-lost relative. Since she didn't know her own name, Yota questioned if she was being threatened, then asked his father, Daiichi, but he gave his permission as well. He thought they were crazy and asked how they were even related, but Daiichi told him to calm down and mind his business. He then noticed Hina smirking and thanking them for the hospitality. During dinner, Yota's sister, Sora, arrived, and Hina asked who this wench was. Sora asked if she was cosplaying. Hina wanted to know her last name, and Yota revealed it was Narukami, like the rest of them. Outraged, Hina was pissed they were named after the sun god when she was a real god, and her last name was Satu. They thought she was a whack job. After dinner, Yota tries to study, but Hina stops him, reminding him the world would end in 30 days. To make her shut up, Yota brought out the PlayStation 5 and started a game for her. While playing, Hina asks why she was the hero at a measly level 1, and Yota explains the thrill of an RPG was the journey of growing stronger, which she agreed with. When she reached level 3, she suddenly fell asleep, making Yota scream for his mommy. After tucking her in, Yota's parents were happy to finally have her with them. The next morning, Yota thought about Izanami. She lost her mother to an illness when she was young, and ever since then, she walled off the world and became an introvert. She was always around, but constantly hiding behind Yota. Then they reached middle school, and the class losers started noticing her. One loser asked Yota to ask her out for him, but when he brought it up, she simply nodded no. She suddenly became the prettiest girl in school, and he realized he loved her. She had been by his side the entire time, and he never noticed. He was focused on basketball, but chose to quit to get closer to her. But when he confessed, he had no game at all. Hina called him pathetic, but Yota thought it was her fault. However, she had a plan. She revealed Sora was making a movie for her film club and suggested casting Izanami as the lead role beside him, forcing them to crack. Yota then crashed out, saying he would just get humiliated even harder. When Sora entered to request his help with the film, he immediately became a sister complex simp. While filming, Yota played an astronaut tasked with saving the world from a devastating meteor, while Izanami was his lovely wife that he promised to return to. His father played the agent escorting him to the station. During the climax scene, Yota simply walked around the corner while Hina shot firecrackers for the meteor explosion. They thought it was stupid. When Yota returned, he walked in for a hug.
Where my hug at?
But Izanami said she was going home and walked away. Afterwards, Hina thought it was a failure, but Yota asked what success would have looked like. Hina imagined Izanami running into his arms, then going home together to crack. He thought she was crazy, since all he did was walk around the corner and return. However, Sora was satisfied with the results. The next day, they tried again with a boxing film starring Ashura and Yota. Izanami asked if his dad was still employed since he was the referee. After Yota knocked Ashura out, Hina rang the bell, and Yota called out to his girl, but she only asked if she could go home before walking home. Hina called it another failure. Daiichi apologized and regretted being his father, then asked what they were expecting. Hina thought she would run into his arms to crack, but they didn't think that was possible. However, Sora believed she could get into Hollywood with this type of comedy. In the next attempt, Hina dressed him as Edward Scissorhands, which made Sora moist and gave Yota confidence. During the film, Izanami called him a diddler, causing him to cry and run up a hill. Yota begged Sora not to post it, but she thought it was hilarious that he had no riz and planned to use every single clip. Later that day, Hina revealed Izanami had a passion for music and dreamed of becoming a music director for movies. She suggested composing a soundtrack to win her heart. At the piano store, Hina composed and played a song while Yota recorded it on his phone. Afterwards, he practiced until the store owner noticed and walked over to listen. After days of practicing, Yota went to Izanami's house to flex his new talent. While playing, Yota began struggling, and Izanami noticed, causing her to sit beside him and play as well. Yota stood and listened to the music, realizing how beautiful and talented she truly was. She brought out how the song was meant to sound. Afterwards, Izanami thought it was good and asked if he wrote it, but Yota said it was a gift from above. She asked if he planned to pursue music, but Yota admitted he only wanted to attend the same college as her. He wanted to confess his feelings, but she moved closer for a confession. Yoda hesitated again and asked if they could study together. Izanami agreed and suggested meeting at the library more often. When he got home, Daichi thought he was pitiful. Yoda thanks Hina anyway since Izanami thought it was a good song. Daichi asked why Sora was late, but Tokiko dropped and shattered a plate. Hina called it a bad omen. Suddenly the doorbell rang and Sora was carried home by her friend, Hikari. When Sora woke up the next morning, Yoda gathered everyone. Apparently, debt collectors had come after her friend Hikari. She was Sora's mentor in the film club, so she felt obligated to help. Hina offered her assistance as the god Odin. Yoda exposed her real name as Hinasatu, causing her to blow out his spine.
What did I do?
After a thorough explanation, they learned Hikari had been running her mom's ramen shop after she fell ill. However, sales kept declining until a debt collector arrived with threats to forcibly collect. Hina suggested properly advertising the business to increase sales and volunteered to take charge with Yoda's help. Since cooking was a hot endeavor, she couldn't do it herself because she was dressed in divine clothing. Hina gave him a disguise, then handed him a business plan. When he entered, Hikari welcomed him with a smile. The moment he saw her face, he realized she was a baddie too. The first task he was given was to order the shop's specialty. While waiting, he noticed the restaurant was completely empty. When the food arrived, he thanked her for the meal and took a bite. His next task was earning her trust. After finishing, he complimented the food, but admitted he'd never come back. He handed her a business card for his ramen shop rescue consultant firm. Hikari thought he looked too young, but Yoda claimed he was 40. She was shocked but noticed his last name and asked if he was related to her friend Sora. Yoda lied and claimed he was her uncle. He asked her to trust him, promising they were 100% guaranteed to bounce back. Hikari thought it sounded like a scam. However, Yoda asked the difference between soy sauce, pork, miso, and salt ramen. She had no clue. He explained soy sauce, miso, and salt were named after their seasoning, while pork was named after the broth. His IQ was over 9,000. He asked for 3 days to teach her everything he knew for the low price of 300 yen. After an excellent sales pitch, Hikari accepted his tutelage. His first suggestion was changing the name. Hikari refused because her mother had kept it for years.
Learn to accept defeat!
He renamed Ramen Heavenward to Fallen Angel and declared it the new name. Afterwards, he suggested changing the menu. The no additives angle only appealed to old retired Karens and wouldn't sell to younger customers.
The recipe needs to be thrown out now!
He laid out a variety of ingredients and instructed her not to add, but subtract. They would create a simple but plain ramen, then add an overdose amount of powdered MSG, which was umami in a jar. For the finishing touch, Yoda suggested dripping bonito sauce into the soup right in front of the customer. The first drop to hit the bowl was their fallen angel. Upon returning home, Hina revealed she manipulated a TV station into sending an interview team for Yoda's consultation agency tomorrow. She smiled deviously and laughed like a lunatic. During the interview the next day, Yoda told Hikari to admit defeat before slamming down a bowl. However, today, he had shouting to do, and his anger was for the future of all ramen shops. Meanwhile, Hiroto thought the commercial looked stupid, but since he'd been out of the country for so long, Japanese food sounded good. Raita told him to shut up because he'd have to uncuff him for that. However, Hiroto threatened to hack their financial systems again if he didn't get any takoyaki. After taking a bite, Hiroto offered him some, but the gloomy man declined. Suddenly, a woman lost her daughter, and Hiroto offered to help. Raita rejected the idea and told him to mind his business, but Hiroto begged until he agreed. After seeing the girl's picture, Hiroto put on his gloves and opened a digital portal using the device on his hair. After hacking into the surrounding cameras, he immediately located her and told them to follow. They found her at a park after she ran off following an advertisement drone. After reuniting them, Hiroto waved the single mother family of 2 goodbye. Later that day, the debt collector returned to collect a payment because the business was thriving and slammed down the contract. However, Hina snatched it away. He chased after her, but she dodged every move before ordering Yoda to take him down. Yoda thought she was insane, but she shoved him and told him to follow the numbers on the floor. The man charged in, but Yoda effortlessly dodged every swing. Hina called out number 7 and threw a left hook, crippling the man's jaw. Yoda followed to number 10 and knocked out his tooth in the process. After Yoda threatened his tiny life, the man frantically fled the ramen shop. Afterwards, Hina announced they still had the contract, leaving Hikari in the clear. Suddenly, Yoda spotted Sora around the corner. They went inside and revealed to Hikari they were siblings and had planned everything to save her shop. Hikari admitted she already knew because Sora posted the embarrassing film of him, but she had fun and thanked them for the help. Yoda admitted the entire plan was created by Hina. After hearing the glazing, Hina proudly declared herself a god. Elsewhere, Hiroto met with the CEO. She brought him back from the States to locate something. Hiroto only agreed if he could work from his old home. After she accepted, they got him set up, and he learned his mission was to locate the physicist, Shuichiro Kurogi, and uncover what he was hiding. One morning during breakfast, Hina noticed Yota drooling over the TV commentator, Kako Tengen. She was a famous lawyer, and Yota wanted to glaze her in person. Hina thought it was a waste of time since he interacted with the incarnation of beauty every day. Yoda asked if she meant Izanami, which pissed her off because she meant herself, but he wasn't Diddy. Days later, Hina won an online mahjong tournament under Yoda's name. He could now meet the lovely Tengen. She was organizing the Libertas Cup, and the finals were only 2 days away, with Yoda as a contestant. Yoda checked to confirm and discovered he was trending as the #1 online rookie. Hina claimed there'd never be another opportunity for him to meet her again, but Yoda didn't know anything about mahjong. However, all he had to do was follow her instructions. On the day of the finals, Ashura showed up, but when Hina heard his name, she crashed out after realizing everyone Yoda knew had a god's name while she was Satu. Ashura wanted to know why she was still around, then revealed he and Izanami heard about Yoda's online success and came to support him. Upon seeing her, Yoda declared he'd win no matter what. Meanwhile, Daiichi asked Tokiko where his good suit was. Upon arriving, the others split off for the stands, while Yoda headed inside. Once there, Yoda was nervous to be around certified mahjong nerds. Moments later, Tengen entered and greeted everyone. She explained the Libertas Cup exhibited a freestyle of play and asked them to show her something new. She then turned to Yota and started glazing at his online tactics, saying she looked forward to seeing them in person. During the contestant interview, Yota struck his best Lelouch Britannia stance and declared he'd play the mahjong game of the gods. Hina was proud he was following the script. Once the match started, Fat Mustache Man threw down a Richi. Remembering Hina's words, Yoda realized it was a bluff and discarded a tile, but the man flipped his hand and revealed an Ipatsu Richi. That discard cost Yoda 18,000 points. In the next round, the ugly bum revealed a red dragon and called a green dragon next. With 2 dragon groups revealed, no one would take the bait. Yoda picked up a blank tile. He remembered Hina's words again and discarded it, leading to another 16,300 point loss. A half flush, all pungs, and 3 dragons. The commentator declared Yota was cooked. He went bankrupt in 2 hands, and the others were embarrassed to be his friends. The commentators wondered if he was even trying to win, but Tengen was interested to see if he'd turn it around. On the third hand, Yoda remembered Hina's words about creating new combinations. He slammed down a tile and called Ron with force. Izanami noticed he needed a third chow, but Yoda explained it was a mixed double chow. Ashura asked why everyone was angry, but Izanami explained he broke the rules. However, Tengen claimed Yoda was pursuing innovation, then declared she'd allow it. Moving forward, Yoda was no longer permitted to use conventional plays. Izanami was confused, but Hina laughed diabolically. On the fourth hand, it was Yoda's turn to deal. Hina popped in and instructed him to create a 1-suit straight, then make it as long as he wanted for the Tengen cheeks.
Yeah, boy.
Instead, Yoda played a crooked straight with a combination at the end and called it the partial pure straight. Izanami was moist, and everyone else was shocked. The 4-eyed nerd countered and went on the offensive. Yoda looked at his hand, remembered Hina's words, and realized his hand was better. He laid down east, west, south, and north before declaring the compass set. Izanami was appalled that he was this stupid. He flipped over a random tile, confusing the commentators as well. He then completed the compass set, causing a massive influx of points. During the next hand, Yoda's hand was scattered. He slammed it down despite it being incomplete. However, he began explaining that an 8, 9, and 1 wrapped around to form a valid chow. Over the next few rounds, he overwhelmed everyone with made-up garbage while catching up on the scoreboard. His momentum became unstoppable. A few hands later, the tubby called pawn, while the others called Richi. Surrounded by hostiles, Yoda remembered Hina's words once more and called an Uno skip. Tengen's juices started boiling, while the others were speechless. On the very next hand, Izanami noticed he had too many tiles, and it should be a penalty, but Hina reminded everyone the possibilities were infinite. Yoda threw down his signature compass set, but the tiles he had weren't what he needed, so he used the Uno reverse and reversed their turns. He had the pros sweating. On the final turn, Yoda called his first Richi of the game. However, he called another and another, creating the strongest hand possible, an infinite Richi. Ultimately, it led him to victory and the top of the scoreboard. Tengen thought he was absolutely fascinating, while the others were relieved. After receiving his prize, Tengen announced on TV that Yoda's unconventional tactics opened a new frontier in mahjong. Once they were done, Tengen approached and asked if he wanted to slide to her hotel room. She wanted to see and experience the infinite Richi in person. She wanted her back blown out infinitely, causing his soul to leave for heaven. Yota made a risless face, then admitted another woman had claims to the infinite Richi, causing her to order her bodyguard to take him out for humiliating her. The man grabbed onto him and tore his father's suit apart. After escaping, Yoda realized Izanami had already left, and his heart shattered. The next morning, Izanami asked her father if he planned to keep his promise and finally visit her mother's grave with her this year, but he showed no interest. While studying with Yoda, Izanami sighed, so Yotu asked if helping him was bothering her. She didn't mind studying but admitted she was worried about her father. It had been 10 years since her mother died, and he'd rarely left the house since. She visited her grave every year, but he never came with her. Yoda suddenly realized she came to the library to escape home instead of seeing him. Back home, Hina called him pathetic. She reminded him he only had 12 days left to live, then dragged him along to get Izanami's father out of the house from being a deadbeat bum. Once there, Yoda reminded him he was Izanami's childhood friend and asked if he wanted to go for a walk. Her father declined, saying he had work to do. Yoda then brought up Izanami's birthday and asked if he could help pick out a present because he wanted to see her happy. Suddenly, her father opened the door. While walking, he noticed how different everything looked. It had been years since he'd gone outside. Normally, he only visited the local convenience store. Moments later, he spotted a restaurant serving white curry and became intrigued. He thought it was impossible for curry to be white. When the meal arrived and he took a bite, he realized it was white because it had a generous helping of cheese. He thought it was delicious. At the next restaurant, Yoda wondered what the hell they were doing at all these cheese restaurants. However, Hina reminded him their true goal was reviving the bum back to his true form. After ordering a bottle of wine, he admitted it's been a long time since he had any. He suddenly stood up, believing he should be with her. However, Hina stopped him and asked with whom. When he answered his wife, they paused before Hina ordered Yoda to stop him from unsubscribing from life. Afterwards, he revealed his wife left behind video messages, but he never showed them to Izanami. He asked Yoda not to tell her before heading home. Moments later, Hina spotted a toy from their video game and decided to buy it for Izanami. When they got home, Yoda played an old video of both families having a barbecue together. Hina thought it was sad she never got to hear her mother's message. Yoda remembered how troubled she was over Hikari's situation and asked if something happened with her own mother. However, Hina denied ever having one since she was a god. She then explained that after hearing Izanami's mother's voice, she could reproduce it by reprogramming Yota's phone. She would call Izanami while disguising herself as her mother. While studying the next day, Yota asked Izanami if she would speak to her mother right now if it were possible. He explained he'd been researching magic and accidentally created a magic phone that could talk to the dead. Izanami asked if he tested it yet. Yota revealed he spoke to Natsume Soseki, who said he was a cat. She thought it sounded like a miraculous moment. Outside, Yoda handed her the phone, and her mother greeted her. Hearing her voice, Izanami thought it sounded nostalgic. Apparently, Hades took a liking to her and had been treating her well. Yoda was shocked to see Izanami laughing. Her mother explained she had to leave soon and that it was a miracle to speak with her daughter again. She told Izanami to watch her video messages whenever she missed her. When Izanami questioned it, her mother explained her father must have forgotten because she left video messages for both of them before she passed and told her to ask him for them. She then said Hades was calling and she had to go. Yoda realized she was talking to the god of death. After Hina hung up, Izanami thanked Yoda and hurried home to speak with her father. When she arrived, Izanami asked if her mother left video messages. From his reaction, she knew it was true and asked why he hid them. He admitted he only watched the first part because he found himself replaying it over and over. Izanami asked if she could watch them, and he agreed, just not until the end. During the recordings, her mother left birthday messages for every year until her 18th birthday. The next message would be the last. Once she finished them, she asked them to destroy the videos and move on with their lives. Her father immediately turned it off. Izanami admitted she closed herself off from the world after her mother died and wondered if hearing the final message would help her open back up. She asked him to watch it together. She reminded him she was still there with him and he wouldn't lose her too. Hearing her words, he was touched and turned the video back on. While watching, her mother admitted she knew he would fall into depression but still wanted him to move on and live happily. She believed he deserved it because he spent his life loving her. She reminded Izanami to be happy as well. She then offered to cast a spell on them to grant them eternal happiness. After casting the spell, she asked them to keep their promise to forget and move on. Afterwards, her father fell even deeper into depravity. Izanami laughed at him. She thought she was suffering the most, but never realized how much pain he carried. She asked him to believe in the power of her mother's spell and not let her efforts go to waste. He thought she was amazing and asked when she became so strong. Izanami answered it was just now after seeing the final message. She asked him to go back out into the world and meet new people, someone who could love him like her mother did. Hearing her words, he finally realized he'd been a fool, and she was right all along. Later, they visited her mother's grave together for the first time. Afterwards, Izanami went to Yota's house and thanked him for everything he'd done for her. She asked if there was anything she could do in return.
Yeah, boy.
Yoda wondered if this was finally his chance to shine. However, he couldn't get the words out, leaving Hina pissed once again. Some days later, while eating watermelon, Hina asked why all the peasants were wearing robes, and Yoda explained they were heading to the festival. She was immediately interested. Yoda wanted to finish the fruit and study, then suggested going with Ashura. However, a goddess demanded an entourage. There was Sora, Hikari, Izanami, Tengen, Ashura, and lastly him. Yoda wasn't sure if Tengen would slide for the glizzy after rejecting her so coldly, but Hina suggested calling anyway. After the call, he informs her she canceled her shoot just to come glaze the Mahjong King. Later, Tokiko offered Hina a yukata for the festival, but she preferred dressing as a divine nun. When Sora stepped out, the sister complex simp started wilding out. Moments later, Izanami arrived looking heavenly, and Yota started simping even harder. Suddenly, a lunatic rode by on a bike who happened to be this bum. Ashura complimented the baddies, and Yoda started acting up again. When Hikari arrived, the Virgin thought it was a magical miracle to have a third one. Then Tengen showed up and asked who the little runt dressed as a nun was. Hina called her a hag and declared herself a god. Tengen didn't like her tone and asked again who this little wench was. Yota says she was his cousin, and Tengen immediately backs off. Since Tengen started attracting attention, they decided to move on. They wondered what food to get, but Izanami suggested Thomasen. It was a fried egg between rice crackers. They all thought it looked disgusting. However, after taking one bite, they all had the exact same reaction. Even the hag thought it was delicious. At the goldfish scooping booth, Izanami caught 20 and was ready to bankrupt the vendor. Hina grew frustrated that Izanami spent her time teaching Yoda how to fish. She wanted them to take her to another booth immediately. At the next game, Hina aimed for the stuffed penguin, but the game was rigged and the pellets weren't strong enough. She devised a plan and instructed Yoda to shoot alongside her. Together, they knocked it down and won the penguin. Izanami walked over and asked if there was a game he could teach her. However, he was the student, and God was the master. Izanami proceeded to hit every shot in the next game and said she couldn't have done it without him. Moments later, Hina spotted a mask and begged Yoda to buy it for her. Afterwards, Ashura suggested sending the girls into the haunted house to scare them into cracking. Once inside, arms burst from the walls and grabbed Tengen by the foot. Hina immediately retreated and abandoned her to the undead. Tengen begged them not to leave her behind. However, they became trapped with monsters on both sides. After the girls escaped, Ashura thought they still made a great team, just like back at the Inter-High prelims. Next, Hina spotted another game and, using her omniscience, realized it was rigged before calling them out. The man denied everything, but Yoda suddenly realized what was happening. Some goons approached, so Yoda grabbed Hina and ran. After escaping, Hikari showed Hina how to play a game from Squid Game. Tengen became jealous that a little girl was smarter than her and started carving one as well. Moments later, Ashura asked Yotu to check on Izanami. He found her sitting alone in the dark. Seeing him out of breath, Izanami suggested he sit down while she grabbed shaved ice. After carving out her cookie, Hina noticed Yotu was gone, then spotted him alone with Izanami and became jealous. She wandered over to random losers, calling them lolicons while trying to riz them into worshipping her. They all thought she talked like a grandmother. Hina suddenly became sad and wandered off alone. Feeling hot, she followed a cool breeze into a truck, dropping her penguin and candy stick behind. While relaxing inside, the door suddenly shut and locked her in. She tried to let them know she was inside, but the truck had already started driving. Meanwhile, the others asked Yotu and Izanami if they'd seen Hina, but they hadn't. Izanami suggested splitting up to search. After questioning the festival goers, Ashura learned a little girl dressed like a lunatic had been calling people lolicons. Apparently, she was seen heading toward the back parking lot. They found her candy stick and stuffed penguin, then noticed tire tracks and realized she'd been abducted. Spotting a truck driver asleep nearby, they asked about the vehicle. It was headed for Tokyo and was a freezer truck. Omniscience was her only power. Other than that, she was just a regular kid, so they needed to hurry. After borrowing Ashura's bike, they chased down the truck and caught up to it on the highway. They tried signaling the driver, but he kept going. Ashura suddenly told Yoda to jump, just like during the Inter-High prelims. He couldn't jump anymore, so it had to be him. They were up against Truck Kun too, so it was finally time for revenge. After the accident, Ashura was ready to quit basketball, but Yoda promised he'd be waiting. During the prelims, the game was already lost, but they still went for one last score and fell short. However, Ashura asked Yoda to jump for him and carry him one last time. He finally grew some balls and prepared to lunge. Using Ashura as a stepping stone, he launched himself onto the truck and latched on. After giving the driver a heart attack, they opened the freezer and rescued a freezing goddess. Afterwards, Hina thanked him for coming to save her. When they returned to the festival, Ashura thanked Yoda for being his best friend and getting revenge on Truck Kun together. Seconds later, the fireworks go off, and Yoda wonders if their peaceful summer would come to an end soon. The following day, Sora presented the final draft of her screenplay, and the simp couldn't wait to read it. After going through it, Yotan thought it was incredibly awesome. However, it leaned heavily into fantasy, so he questioned whether they could actually film it. Yoda suggested revising the script, but Hina thought there was no need, since they already had the perfect actress for the main heroine. Yoda wondered who, then asked if she meant Izanami, but she meant herself. He thought it was completely ridiculous, but Sora approved. Hina suggested recruiting everyone else, but Yoda refused to drag them into it. However, Sora's cute face rizzed him into submission, and he immediately called everyone over. Later, everyone arrived, including Izanami. Hikari asked if he really invited the loan shark. Apparently, he'd turned his life around and offered to help. Tengen's bodyguard demanded to know what they wanted. Yoda explained they were making a movie and needed help. Tengen excitedly assumed she'd be the lead, only to learn they only needed her money. She instantly turned into the devil. Yoda then offered her a role in the movie. Tengen asked who the main heroine was, only to learn it was Hina. She thought it was a joke and claimed the little wench wasn't silver tongue material. However, Hina believed that if she already underestimated her skills, she'd already been fooled. Tengen looked to Yoda, but he explained his little sister Sora was the director. Hikari thought Ashura looked ugly but strong, so she slaved him into handling the lights. After Sora thanked everyone for coming, Yoda suggested taking a break while she prepared the storyboard. The moment they saw Sora's artwork, it felt like reading a manga. It followed a clumsy girl from a peasant village with a hidden power that might be the only way to save the world. Afterwards, they decided Yoda would play the childhood friend. Just then, Tengen handed them her American Express black card to blow some bands on costumes. After buying them, they filmed the scene where the two walked toward each other romantically.
Nay, sir!
But Yoda stopped the take, saying Hina had to stop talking like a medieval grandmother for the movie, but Sora thought it was okay. They continued filming, and Hina's character invited him to join her while she sang. She sounded like a dying hippo. Tengen called it hideous and asked if she wasn't ashamed, but Hina asked if the old hag had a problem. The two immediately started beefing until Yoda pulled Hina away and admitted she sounded like garbage. After hearing it from him, Hina agreed to stop messing around. During the next take, Hina approached and told him she'd be leaving because her powers were needed to save the world. Tengen then appeared dressed as Diddy while speaking with a medieval accent. Sora told Yoda to stop going off script. However, Tengen wanted to know why she'd been cast as Gandalf the Grey. She ordered Hina to leave the Thea and thou crap to her, but Hina had been talking like that since episode 1. Yoda asked Tengen to calm down, and she did, just for him, which clearly agitated Hina. In the next scene, Hina was supposed to bake a cake, but started crushing the eggs instead. As she kept crushing them, Yoda realized she wasn't acting anymore. She started crashing out, but Yoda hugged her from behind and reassured her he liked her the way she was. Afterwards, they sat on a hill to take a break. Hina explained Ashura told her Yoda risked his life to save her. She was shocked since the world was going to end anyway. However, Yoda explained it didn't matter because having her around made the summer really fun. Suddenly, Daiichi arrived with lunch, but Sora thought he was perfect and immediately cast him as the king. The royal mage Izanami requested more time to save the kingdom, but Tengen assured them they had none left. After Sora called cut, Yoda asked what they were going to do about the background since the scene was supposed to take place in a temple. Hina suggested using CGI. However, she used free garbage AI subscriptions and generated a bunch of trash backgrounds that had nothing to do with a temple. They thought she was joking. At the end of the day, Tengen said she might be busy tomorrow, but Hina asked if she'd conceded the leading role, causing Tengen to declare she'd be the first one on set. Meanwhile, Hiroto and Raita broke into a data center to steal information on the good doctor, but Hiroto found nothing. However, Raita discovered a hidden address connected to him. They arrived the next day to find the place completely destroyed. Hiroto approached the workers as the owner's grandson and asked when the demolition started. The man explained it began the day before yesterday, while a truck came yesterday to collect everything inside. Hearing that, Hiroto sprinted back to the car and hacked nearby traffic cameras to track the truck. They followed its route to a dump on the other side of town and rushed inside to search through the trash. Hiroto asked the workers where yesterday's demolished house was dumped. They informed him it was already on the assembly line. Hiroto immediately climbed onto the conveyor belt and dug through box after box until he found the doctor's personal journal. However, he slipped backward toward his death, but Raita saved him at the last second. After rescuing the shrimp, the journal revealed the doctor's hidden secret was a secret granddaughter. One night, Hina had a nightmare about her grandfather leaving, then suddenly woke up. Tokiko heard her whispering in her sleep and told Hina they loved him as well. During filming the next day, Yoda wondered what would happen to all of them when summer ended. He thought about Hina's prophecy and still couldn't believe it, but he had a feeling she'd be leaving soon. Later that night, he asked his parents how long Hina would be staying because he felt like she'd disappear soon. Daiichi admitted he didn't expect this conversation so early, then revealed Hina wasn't actually their relative. She was the granddaughter of a professor who had mentored them. Her mother passed away, and her father abandoned her to start a new family. That left her in the care of her grandfather. Before he died, he arranged everything. He told them he'd dress her in an outrageous outfit, and when they found her, they were to take her in. When he called the day they first met, Tokiko immediately recognized her from the description. How long she stayed depended on both him and Hina. Hours later, Hina barged in wanting to play games, but noticed Yoda looked depressed. Yoda explained his parents told him how she ended up in their care. However, Hina called it blasphemous to pry into a god's past. Yoda called her a human since she had parents. Hina admitted she was born human but ascended to godhood. Apparently, her divine powers awakened 334 days ago, and she had no idea why. Yoda mentioned her father was still alive and suggested meeting him, but she didn't think it mattered. She asked why she'd want to meet the father who cast her aside. Yoda realized she was right and dropped it, but Hina called him out for planning to seek him out without her. She sighed and admitted she already knew where he lived. Yoda felt that since she'd helped everyone else with their family problems, he should do the same for her. After accepting his plea, she agreed to accompany him and assist with her powers. While looking over the map, Hina became excited to see the ocean for the first time, but Yoda realized it would be a long trip. He asked his mommy for permission, and Tokiko offered to pack them bento boxes. They took a bus into the mountains while eating their lunches. After getting off, they continued on foot beneath the scorching heat. Yoda asked if she was worried about meeting her father, but Hina had no concerns. He was the one who'd have to face the child he abandoned. Then she started laughing. They eventually arrived at a newly built home twice the size of Yoda's. When the husband appeared, Yoda started stuttering like a worthless wimp before managing to say they were acquaintances of Hina. Once the door opened, their ugly children ran outside and they were invited in. Inside, Toshi introduced himself. Yoda wanted to ask about Hina, but as Toshi referred to her in the third person, the wife brought out tea for only one person. Yoda wondered why and questioned if he was the only one who could see her. He didn't want to believe it. However, they informed Hina her royal milk tea needed a little more time. Yoda wondered when she even ordered royal milk tea. Toshi then asked who the young girl beside him was. Yoda revealed she was his daughter, Hina, completely shocking him. He thought it was impossible and asked if she was really her. Hina admitted it was and declared she'd become a god. Suddenly, the wife dropped the teapot and demanded to know why she was there. The situation was even worse than Yoda expected. Toshi asked them to wait outside while they continued talking. They walked to the beach, where Hina saw the ocean for the first time. Moonin took a liking to her, so Toshi asked her to play with him. During their discussion, Yotu asked Toshi to tell him more about Hina. Toshi admitted he hadn't been part of her life since she was 7. She was born with a hereditary condition called Logos syndrome. It caused both cerebral atrophy and neurogenic muscular atrophy. As patients grew older, their muscles deteriorated until they eventually died. The Hina he remembered could barely stand or speak. Neither he nor Yoda could believe it. There was no treatment anywhere in the world, but if she truly was Hina, then it had to be real. Toshi admitted he didn't know whether to celebrate her recovery or hate himself for abandoning her to build a new family. Yoda was still a child, so he probably couldn't understand, but bringing Hina back healthy after all this time felt cruel. Hina's mother blamed herself for her daughter's illness and could never forgive herself. In the end, she took her own life. Yoda couldn't believe it, but he was still glad Hina could finally be shown to her father healthy. However, nothing could have made Toshi want to see her. Yoda thought that was selfish since she was such a good kid. Toshi admitted he never knew because it had been impossible to communicate with her. He abandoned her to protect the new life he'd built and asked if Yoda could understand the weight of that decision. Even if he couldn't now, one day he might face the same choice. He repeated there was no treatment for Logos syndrome. If there had been a medical breakthrough, he would have known as a doctor. From experience, miracles were only temporary. Eventually, reality always caught up. Before leaving, Yoda asked if Hina had anything she wanted to say to him, but she didn't. Her only job was bringing him there. Some days later, Hiroto discovered the location of Dr. Kurogi's granddaughter. He was shocked to find her fully recovered despite her condition. According to current medical science, that should have been impossible. After the doctor passed away, Hina went to live with 2 of his former students, Mr. and Mrs. Narukami. Another mystery was Yota Narukami. Hiroto dug through everything on him and found nothing but an ordinary high school kid. Yet out of nowhere, he pulled off a PR stunt to save a ramen shop, then destroyed the nation's top mahjong players after dominating the online prelims. Hiroto believed Hinasatu was behind it all, but needed more time to think. While researching further, he made another discovery, but thought it was impossible. Raita stepped outside to report to the CEO. He informed her the doctor's research was something capable of completely changing the current world order, or even overturning it entirely. Total global information supremacy, in other words, the omniscience of a god. During the report, the CEO was already in a foul mood because a chip-sized quantum computer capable of operating at room temperature had been developed. Hiroto claimed to know its location and made a proposal. It was the greatest technological breakthrough in history, and he wanted to analyze it because only he could. With it, he could give her the world. However, she rejected the idea. His job was only to locate it and report back. Hiroto became furious and demanded to know why they insisted on wasting his talent. They locked him away, only to bring him out for grunt work. If the world knew what he was capable of, they'd grovel on their knees, but she was too ignorant to realize it. The bodyguard crushed his gut, then stepped on his head for overstepping. Hiroto thought all adults were the same. They forced him to spend his life in a cage, then kept him on a leash because they lacked the brain power to keep up with him. A bunch of greedy pigs. The CEO ordered the bodyguard to back off. She explained she wanted Hiroto to use his talents for something beneficial. Personally, she wanted to keep him from returning to the dark path he walked when they first met. Hearing that, Hiroto silently returned to his workstation. Back at his desk, Hiroto thought he was nothing more than their Tesla IT slave. However, Raita explained the CEO was simply trying to show him affection. Hiroto connected to the ocean of information in search of the quantum computer and dived in. As he descended, he spotted a glowing goldfish swimming through the data. He wondered if it was malicious code and blasted it with digital magic, but the attack was completely deflected. Suddenly, a massive monster appeared behind it. Hiroto fired at the whale instead, but Moby Dick tanked every shot. He realized the goldfish contained the secret while the whale was the protection code Dr. Kurogi left behind. He attacked again, claiming this was all he was good for and couldn't let it escape. Suddenly, he found himself reliving the day his parents died. Hiroto asked the CEO where the things he spawned out of had gone. She apologized and told him they were dead, but Hiroto burst into maniacal laughter. He thought it was well-deserved since they constantly beat him, burned him, and treated him like a slave. He told them to burn in hell. The CEO thought he was pitiful, but Hiroto believed she meant them. He had to complete this mission no matter what to prove he was still worth something. The whale slammed its tail into him and blew him away. Hiroto chased after it, insisting nothing was impossible for him. This power was all he had, and he needed to prove he was more than just a tool. If he failed here, there was no reason for him to exist. In desperation, he reached out, and the moment he touched it, the flames of hell burned him up. Elsewhere, Hina felt a disturbance and predicted a great storm was coming. Hiroto and Raita later reported on Hina. The quantum computer was suppressing the brain atrophy caused by Logos syndrome, allowing her to live a healthy life. That had been the ultimate goal of Dr. Kurogi's research. He sacrificed the final years of his life so she could experience the world. The CEO declared his role was finished and dismissed him. However, Hiroto stepped forward and asked if they planned to remove it from her. She explained it was no longer her decision. Hiroto was outraged, but the guards grabbed him and dragged him away. Raita threw him into a storage room and suggested he calm down. Realizing it was his fault they found her, he began sending Hina a message to help her escape. Moments later, Hina felt another disturbance. She apologized for being wrong about her prophecy. Apparently, the end was only coming for her. Her grandfather had protected her this whole time and truly was a god. However, a certain youth uncovered the truth and slew her great protector. His pain was now freshly revealed to her. Yoda asked what she meant, and Hina explained humanity had already decided. They took their vote and placed their seals in turn. By unanimous agreement, the quantum computer would be removed from Hinasatu and buried until humanity reached an equivalent level of technology. Suddenly, agents arrived and announced they were taking the child. Hikari and Izanami told Yota to grab Hina and run. Tengen and the goons prepared to fight as well. Yoda wished them good luck, then grabbed Hina and started running. On the way out, Hina tripped and her veil flew off. She asked where they were going, then stopped him and asked why he'd risk his life for her. Yoda admitted the past month had been the most fun he'd had in years, and it was all because of her. Every moment they spent together was incredible, and he wanted it to continue. He hugged her and admitted he wanted to protect her because he loved her. It wasn't just him either. His parents, Sora, and all their friends loved her too. However, Hina revealed there was no point. No matter where they ran, they would be found. She was an omniscient god, and there wasn't a place on Earth they could hide from them. Their summer would now end, but she would continue carrying its warmth in her heart. Moments later, the agents caught up and tossed Yoda aside. Before they took her away, Hina admitted she loved him dearly as well. After that, they spent days searching for Hina, but no leads ever surfaced. Eventually, school started again, and the countdown to the end of the world reached 0. At school, Hiroto appeared and introduced himself to Yoda. He was a year younger and manually inserted his number into Yoda's phone, claiming anything was possible since he was a genius. Hiroto quickly fit into their friend group and became close with Izanami because she finally had someone intelligent to talk to. After school, Hiroto brought up them both being on the basketball team and asked if they could teach him since he'd never played before. On the court, Hiroto charged in, juked Yoda, crossed Ashura, and sank a clean shot through the hoop. It clearly wasn't his first time, and he hustled them all. Meanwhile, Hiroto carefully observed Yoda. The next day after school, Hiroto admitted he'd been living overseas and suggested getting something to eat. Ashura recommended takoyaki, which got him excited, but Hiroto suggested somewhere they both had a connection to. Yota couldn't think of one, which pissed Hiroto off, so Ashura suggested Hikari's ramen shop instead. After taking a bite, Hiroto reacted exactly like Hina did and declared the ramen worthy of the divine. He watched Yoda closely, but Yoda only stared at the missing flyer and sighed. Another day passed with no news of Hina. The following day, Hiroto suggested playing a game all 4 of them could enjoy so Izanami could join too. He asked Yota for an intellectually stimulating game, but nothing came to mind. When Izanami suggested mahjong, Hiroto became irritated but accepted. Izanami won, while Hiroto continued watching Yota instead. Soon, winter arrived, and Yota still searched for Hina. Spending time with his friends was fun, but all he felt was loneliness. He wondered if everyone would simply move on and let the summer they spent with Hina fade away. Suddenly, Sora walked in carrying a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Hiroto became excited to meet her since she was in the film club and asked if she'd been working on anything. Ashura revealed she'd been making her own movie, and Hiroto immediately asked to watch it. Sora said it was fine if Yoda agreed too. However, Yoda admitted he wasn't ready, clearly frustrating Hiroto again. Days later, Yota and Izanami felt confident they passed their college entrance exams, but Ashura was certain his future was over.
Gosh, I am so sorry.
Hiroto approached and admitted the days he spent with them had been fun. He'd always cherished the ramen, basketball, and mahjong they shared. Yota smiled, happy he enjoyed himself. However, Hiroto suddenly crashed out and called him an ass. He'd made it as obvious as possible, yet Yota never realized it. He declared he was done and heading back to California. Izanami asked how the two of them even met. Suddenly, Yota realized Hiroto had been recreating everything that happened when Hina stepped into his life. He immediately chased after him and remembered Hina's words about the boy who'd slain her great protector. After catching up, Yota accused Hiroto of killing the god inside Hina. Hiroto admitted it was true. His superiors had forbidden him from explaining anything directly, and he was already risking everything just by contacting him. He confessed it was his fault Hina had been found, but humanity ultimately decided they didn't want a new god. She wasn't dead, but she was no longer the same person, nor was she a god. They found somewhere private, and Hiroto explained the origin of Hina's omniscience. He offered Yoda a chance to see her, warning she wasn't the girl he remembered. However, Yoda wanted to see her no matter what. After packing his bags, Yoda got into the car with Hiroto and Raida. They arrived at a medical facility hidden deep in the northern mountains. Hiroto inserted a fake personnel file into the system, listing Yoda as a research assistant from an overseas facility. The credentials would only last 2 weeks before expiring, and Yota would have to submit daily reports. Yota asked if Hiroto was coming inside. However, Hiroto replied that even a genius couldn't do everything. His job was simply getting Yota there, and this was his way of repenting. Yota thanked him before Hiroto waved him off. Inside the facility, another visiting researcher named Shiba noticed he was scheduled to see Hina Satu and guided him there. Before entering, she reminded him not to startle her. The moment they stepped inside, Yoda called out to Hina, but Shiba quickly stopped him. Apparently, she became extremely distressed whenever she was startled. As they walked closer, Yoda finally saw her and was horrified. He thought he'd prepared himself, but the sight completely shattered his heart. Yoda knelt beside her and asked if she recognized him, but she gave no reply. Shiba explained her head had been shaved before arriving in preparation for cranial surgery. Yoda sat beside her and tried to hold her, but she immediately started crashing out. She looked at him with disgust. Yoda couldn't believe what he was seeing. Afterwards, he asked if he could simply take her home. Shiba checked his credentials and confirmed he was qualified. However, she explained he could only take her if Hina willingly chose to leave with him. She currently suffered from an extreme fear of men. Combined with the cranial surgery, Shiba couldn't imagine the trauma she'd endured before arriving there. She firmly believed the facility was the safest place for her. Yoda thought it was wrong, then screamed it was too cruel, but Hina immediately shelled up from his raised voice, forcing Shiba to ask him to leave. Sitting outside alone, Yota remembered Toshi's words and felt his heart break all over again. Since the people there could care for Hina, he wondered if giving up on her might truly be what was best for her. Yota made arrangements with Shiba and was allowed to visit Hina for 1 hour a day from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. With only 2 weeks left, his plan was to get her to recognize him before then. Every time he tried speaking with her, she gave no response. He kept trying until frustration got the better of him, and he grabbed her, sending her into a panic before Shiba quickly rushed over to comfort her. While he moped around, Shiba brought him a cup of coffee. Yota thought Hina's condition was far more severe than the other patients. Shiba agreed, but believed she was fortunate. When Yota asked how, she explained millions of children around the world lived with disabilities, and Hina was lucky to receive treatment at a facility with services like theirs. Yota thought that was absurd and asked if Hina told her that herself. Shiba said it was simply an objective fact. Yota argued they didn't know what she wanted and wouldn't until they found out. Shiba then revealed Hina had only just started looking her in the eyes, meaning she had only just begun recognizing her as a person. When she first arrived, she shut out every attempt at interaction, but now she looked Shiba in the eyes and listened to what she had to say. That alone was a huge step forward. Whatever happened to her left her so terrified of the world that she walled herself off from it and believed the facility was the safest place for her. Yota disagreed and offered to take her to his own facility as her personal caretaker. Shiba replied she'd believe him if Hina would actually look him in the eyes when he spoke. She thought that was a reasonable thing to expect. The following day, Yota brought in a picture book and read her the story of the sun god, hoping it'd remind her of the first day they met, but she simply looked away. He sighed before spending the night writing and sending his reports. She was aware of him in the room, but always turned away whenever he spoke. It became so depressing that he started losing hope. Shiba arrived with another cup of coffee and asked if he knew what happened before she came there. She explained an advanced machine implanted in Hina's head had been removed, and any memory of him disappeared with it. Instead of trying to bring back old memories, she suggested helping her create new ones. Yota refused, but Shiba wondered if the Hina he knew was even Hina at all and asked if he'd ever considered the possibility he had only been interacting with the machine. Yota denied it. She was as human as anyone else and expressed happiness and anger. Shiba reminded him a machine could mimic all of that, then asked again if the Hina he knew was the machine and if the real Hina he first met was the one living in this facility. Yota suddenly realized she was right. He could have never known. If it truly was the machine, there was nothing he could do now. Later that night, Izanami called after worrying because he hadn't kept in touch. She wanted him to know she loved him. She loved both him and Hina and everything they'd done for each other. Izanami reminded him not to lose himself and to believe in himself. Yota thanked her and wished her good night. She suddenly added him into a group chat where everyone cheered for his and Hina's safe return, leaving him deeply touched. Watching Hina the next day, Yota remembered how much she loved video games, so he used the credentials Hiroto gave him to request a TV and PlayStation 5. As soon as they arrived, everything was set up. Shiba immediately scolded him because she believed video games were addictive and couldn't allow it. They'd be risking all the progress Hina had made. Yota insisted it wouldn't hurt her and decided to use it anyway since he didn't have much time left. While playing, Hina enjoyed herself until she got stuck on a rock. Yota aggressively told her to move around, making her snap and throw down the controller. Shiba came over to comfort her while calling him scary. They tried again the following day, but Hina kept making mistakes, and Yota became even more impatient. During a cutscene, she accidentally skipped it, frustrating herself again. After calming down, she finally reached the boss, only to get wiped out because she hadn't trained her characters. Hina threw down the controller and cried again. Yota wondered if what he was doing was even right. Afterwards, he watched Shiba let Hina choose a toy. She picked the projector that displayed the solar system across the wall. Watching them together, he realized he'd been trying to make Hina do things, while Shiba simply stayed by her side and let her do them herself. That night, Yota spent hours making picture cards of his ugly self and friends. The next day, he showed them to Hina. He handed her his card, but she threw it away. He picked it back up, only for her to toss it like an unwanted orphan child. He gave up and left himself out. From then on, she slept with the others on her pillow while Yota stayed up playing video games. He just needed to level up her characters so she doesn't die in one hit and crash out. Shiba found him pulling an all-nighter, but Yota claimed sleep wasn't necessary if it meant helping Hina. That evening, Yota sat quietly waiting for Hina to make the first move. When she suddenly looked at the console, he asked if she wanted to play, and she nodded yes. During the game, Hina defeated the boss in one hit. Yota praised her, earning her first smile for him. He told her to charge forward and take the whole world on while she cheered with excitement. Meanwhile, Shiba discovered his credentials were falsified and fake. The next morning, Shiba confronted Yoda about the fake credentials, and he confessed. She ordered him to leave the premises immediately and informed him Hina would be transferred overseas to a facility with even better care. Yoda dropped to his knees and begged for the rest of the day with her, or at least a few more hours. Shiba sighed and reluctantly agreed. During his final visit, Yoda asked if she wanted to go home with him, catching Shiba off guard. He reminded Hina about the summer they spent with their friends and said they'd all be waiting for her. As tears filled his eyes, Hina suddenly said Sora's name. He picked up Daiichi's card, and she said his name too. She even recognized his mother's name. Yoda searched for his own card and found it underneath the bed. When he asked her to say his name, she started falling asleep. He snapped in frustration, frightening her again. She slapped the card from his hand and buried her face. At that moment, Shiba arrived with guards and declared his time was up. As they escorted him away, Hina looked terrified, but he continued calling out to her. On the way out, Yoda started crashing out until a guard dropped him with a punch to the gut. They beat him before dragging him to his ride. Outside, Yoda broke down crying and apologized to everyone for failing. He turned back, said goodbye one last time, and walked away. As he left, Hina stared at the picture cards and wondered why he wasn't there. She asked for Yoda and wondered why he wasn't here. Hearing her voice, Yoda turned around and realized she never needed his card because he'd been there the whole time. Hina jumped out of Shiba's arms, and when Shiba reached for her, Hina rejected her. She struggled to her feet on her own and slowly walked toward Yoda, saying she loved him and asking him to please stay. Yoda teared up as he realized she still remembered and cared for him. She never forgot. He just couldn't understand. He ran over and caught her in his arms. Watching them reunite, Shiba could only smile at the miracle she had just witnessed. After returning home, Tokiko ran over and hugged Hina. Yota tried explaining everything, but Daiichi said there was no need, while Sora thought he was the coolest. They reunited Hina with all their friends, who were overjoyed to have her back. Everyone suggested recreating her old outfit since she was the movie's main character. Tengen agreed, surprising everyone, then offered to have her TV station remake it. Spotting Ashura's basketball, Hina asked to play. On the court, Yoda remembered basketball was the first thing they did together that summer. He wondered if this ordinary life was what she'd always hoped for. Spending time with family, eating ramen, and playing basketball. It was everything she ever wanted, and she was finally free. He told her he believed in her and encouraged her to keep going, but her first shot was tragic. She kept missing in frustration until she finally sank one. Everyone cheered as Ashura grabbed the rebound. After Tengen came through, the girls helped Hina into her recreated outfit, and it fit perfectly. While filming the movie's ending, everyone encouraged Hina to walk over and hug Yoda. She slowly crossed the set and embraced him for the climactic finale. That night, while overlooking the city lights, Yoda vowed to attend college for the right reasons. He wanted to become a brilliant researcher like her grandfather so he could use his skills to help her. If no one had found a cure yet, he promised to be the first. That way, they'd always be together.
Hina love you very, very much.
When you say that, it makes me feel like I could take on the whole world! I'm doing this!
Ah!
If you enjoyed this recap, subscribe for more anime recaps like this and watch this video next.